Good morning, everybody. Nice to see all your faces. So glad you're here. So who's ready to learn something about Medicare today?
I am.
Me too. I definitely need an education on this.
You guys are going to teach me.
So how many people in here are actually on Medicare versus, say, a group insurance plan? Medicare? You raising your hand for Medicare? Okay. Anybody on a group plan, like you're retired and you're still?
Anybody working still, or have a spouse that's working, so your insurance is through an employer?
Okay, so just a couple of you.
Yeah, so it sounds like most people are already kind of in the Medicare system. You've got some version of Medicare.
Yeah, okay. So real quick for our first time attendees here today, just to give you an idea of how we do our seminars. So we start at 10, we finish at 11:30. We typically ask questions from our expert here today for about an hour, and then we leave hopefully 30 minutes for your specific questions. If it's something very, very specific, our expert will be sticking around today after, and he can hopefully answer your questions, or you can talk to him further about it then. So we do have some handouts for you. We have the goldenrod sheet is an evaluation for you to put any comments or anything you would like us to know, or if you would like us or Carl to contact you later. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Parson. I'm a realtor, and I also have a senior move management company, so we help people with downsizing. And we've been doing these seminars for about a year now, all different topics that are senior related. So we're working our calendar for next year. If anybody has any ideas or suggestions, please feel free to put something on the goldenrod sheet. So we do look at all of those. We appreciate that. If you have questions, if you can hold them till we're done. So we do have some presentation material that we do want to make sure that we cover for you. And then when we're done with that, we'll open it up for questions at that time. And restrooms are right out those doors, and they're unlocked this time, so you can get back in. All right, so who completely understands the Medicare plan that you're on? You do? Okay, should we, yeah. Okay, well, hopefully you do. Okay, we'll find out. So most of you did not raise your hand. I would be one of them included. I'm not at Medicare age yet, but I don't know how you all figure this out. It is really overwhelming and confusing. And it comes up every year that you can reevaluate your plan, which I guess is a good thing. But I don't know how many people, how many of you have changed your plan ever? Just a few.
I think statistically the government says about 15% of people change annually.
Okay.
And there's about 70 million people on Medicare, so that's, use my calculator, 10 million, 8 million people switch. So it's very rare we find that people change. And we talked earlier about just why is that, and confusion, the fear of if it's not broke, don't fix it, or heaven forbid I make things worse, right?
So Carl, hold on just a minute. We have not introduced you. You're so anxious to get right into this, right? So tell us who you are, what you do, why you're here today.
So my name is Carl Steinlage. I am a St. Charles County born and raised kid. My family has had an insurance agency since the 50s. So my grandpa started this agency in North County. My dad took it over. My dad married my mom, who was one of the first female surgeons in St. Charles County. They moved out to Lake St. Louis, And then my brother and my sister and I came in and started working with my dad in the mid-2000s. And so I've had one job my whole life, which has been an insurance broker. I started at 18. Doing these seminars, I used to get the comment, you remind me of your grandkids. And now I'm older, I've done this for 20 years, and it's, you remind me of your kids. So I'm kind of aged out of that grandkid baby face, and now maybe remind you of your kids sometimes. So we have an independent agency, which just kind of means we work with all of these plans that you can buy. And so we're kind of, I would say, different in the sense that we're on your team. We'll sit down with you and kind of listen to your frustrations on your current plan, your wish list, if you will, and try to go find the appropriate product that kind of satisfies as many of those items as possible. Sometimes we can hit a home run for you and get them all checked off. Other times, everyone heard of the donut hole? And so that's a comment. I don't like the donut hole. I don't either, but every plan.
I love those donuts.
Well, you don't know about it yet, so you don't. You're going to regret saying that.
Yeah,
and so some of those things, like, it just kind of is what it is, and so I can, help you understand it a little bit more, but I can't reduce the price of your insulin or your expensive medication that causes you to get into the donut hole because there isn't that magic plan. But more or less, we're a resource for clients to ask questions, to help figure out the most appropriate product. And then for people who are kind of not in the system yet, you'll quickly learn that it gets really intimidating really quick. Al, your friends are telling you one thing, oh, don't mess this up, there's penalties, you got to do this right the first time. And, that mass marketing message has some truth, but this stuff is so unique to your specifics that if you follow that blanket statement, you can really get in trouble.
Okay, so Carl's here today because he's local, family business, very experienced, has a lot of credibility, extremely knowledgeable. So he's here to give us an overall education, and so let's dive in and get started.
Sounds good.
Okay? All right, so Carl, why? You might talk about this a little bit, but just to reiterate, why is Medicare so confusing to most people?
I think it's confusing because it's an intangible product. You sell real estate, which we can walk through and kick the tires and close our eyes and imagine ourselves being there, but it's kind of hard to do that with insurance. I can't pick it up and feel its weight, and I don't want to imagine myself really using it because it means I have some health issues. So I think that's part of it. And in the last 10 or 15 years, we've really seen this big push into these privately ran companies. And so there's been a lot of intentional marketing and growth in the lead generation side of this.
So you're talking about like getting on a list and
Exactly.
getting spammed and...
Yeah, and I'm sure, how many people get robocalls and this stuff every day? Yeah, I bet you look at your phone here in a couple minutes and you have 3 missed calls on it. And 10 years ago, that technology didn't exist. And so what would happen if you answered that call?
They call you back.
You'd probably get an outfit that doesn't operate here. They're overseas. And so what they do is they call it a live transfer, is, hey, I've got a live, this person actually answered the phone. And so that organization, that call center, would sell your information to an insurance agent. We don't do this, but there's outfits all over the country. And now that person would have permission to call you and to solicit you to try to switch your plan. But that type of technology didn't exist 5 or 10 years ago. And so now we have this new idea, which has since, exhausted everybody, so nobody answers their phone anymore. So something like that. We have Medicare Advantage. Everyone's heard that term before. That market has gone from about 6 million people 10 or 15 years ago to about 40 million people. And so that has been a very, I used to never sell Medicare Advantage plans. I would say 100% of people I worked with 20 years ago, never, and we'll talk about these terms, but now it's like 50-50. And so that opportunity has created a lot of noise and confusion and, call it the gold rush. And so we want, to sell the picks and the axes and the tools, which are unfortunately lead generation. We need people to talk to. And so that's where this mass confusion, I think, is really kind of spawned from.
A lot of advertising, a lot of noise out there.
100%. We're all exhausted from the Joe Namath commercial and the J.J. Walker commercial, and you go flip on the TV and it will be pharmaceutical ad, Medicare ad. You go to the grocery store and there are agents that work for insurance companies that sit there and try to kind of say hi to you at the grocery store. Just places where seniors kind of congregate, and so it's just become a confusing topic, has been magnified because of some of these things.
Okay. So you mentioned we're going to talk about some of the terms. So what about, can you help us understand the basics of Medicare and can you give us kind of a quick rundown of Medicare 101?
Sure. So I'm going to go to one of the slides.
There's a switch on the side. Turn it on.
You turn it on first. There we go. Well, we'll start here. So everybody that's on Medicare has this red, white, and blue card. And so kind of the story of the people who are not in the Medicare program yet is Medicare typically becomes available to you when you age in at age 65. So think back when you were 65 or as you approach 65, what happens is you get this inundation of marketing material, right? We talked about the list. Like, how did they get my name? How did they know to call me? Well, it's public information, right? Your name, where you live, your birthday. And so the assumption is that when you turn 65, you've been retired for a couple of years. You're on Social Security already. This is back before Medicare, 20, 30 years ago, we saw a lot of people just retire at 55 or 60, but things have changed. And so Medicare starts at age 65. And you can sign up for what's called Original Medicare. And that has these two basic components called Part A and Part B. So everybody on Medicare in this room, if you have a supplement, an Advantage plan, whatever it might be, you should have this card somewhere. And for the longest time, it's that red, white, and blue card. Yep.
Okay.
And for the longest time, your Medicare number was your Social Security number, which today seems kind of silly. But from 1960 until 2018, your Medicare number was your Social Security number. And then if you guys have been on Medicare since 2018, they changed that, right? So then everybody got this randomized number, and it was a $500 million project the government pushed out. And so today, the Medicare number is scrambled. And so you pay for that. You pay this fee for Medicare that comes out of your Social Security check. And the price that you pay for Medicare is based off of your income. So if we, had 100 people and asked them how much they pay for Medicare, the price could be as low as zero. If you're a single person and your income is under about $25,000 a year, then there are assistance programs available to you to cover the cost of Medicare. If you make more than that and you make less than that top line, the $103,000 if you're a single tax filer, or $206 if you're married filing jointly, then the government adds a surcharge called IRMA. Anybody hear of that term before? So an example would be if I inherit money today and my income spikes and it goes up to $300,000 this year, the government will come back to me in 2 years and they will charge me more for my Medicare fee for that 1 year only. So
they go back and look?
It's a 2-year look back. So as people are aging into the program, a lot of times what we have is we have this event where, gosh, my income was really high 2 years ago because I was working full time. And now I'm retired, I'm moving into Medicare, my income is way lower. And so there's an appeal process where you can kind of raise your hand and say, hey, that was true 2 years ago, but I've had a life event. So when we talk about nothing with Medicare is simple, unfortunately.
So just because I'm really ignorant on this, so the original Medicare, which is
A and B.
Part A and B, okay? So it's B that they charge you for, and you have that scale up there, so it depends on, everybody pays something different?
90%, 80% of people fit right in the middle. They make between $25,000 and $199,000 a year.
Okay, that's a pretty big.
Yeah, and so they pay just the standard fee for Medicare.
So that's $164.90 a month.
This year.
This year.
And next year, it's going up $10 a month. So everybody on Medicare, they just announced this last week, you have a 3.2% increase on your Social Security check. So that goes up automatically.
Okay.
And then Uncle Sam comes back and says, well, you owe us an extra $10 a month out of your Social Security check because of your Medicare. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I
And so
think
this
I got that
is original Medicare, and Part A would cover if I go into the hospital. So think of like a knee replacement. I go into Missouri Baptist for 2 days, the surgeon comes in, they take my old knee out and they put my new knee in, and then I have a bunch of physical therapy afterwards, right? That's a very common claim. And so Medicare, if I just had A and B, it would pay about 80% of that bill, which is, the heavy lifting, like that takes a big bite out of it.
Yeah.
But gosh, if that's a $50,000 expense, 20% of that is still a big number.
Right, and if you're on a fixed income.
Yeah, payment plans are, if I owe $10,000, I don't think my knee hurts that bad yet, right?
Right.
And so you might delay your care. If it's something you have to have, then we have to figure that out. But that leaves some gaps, right? So people in here would say, gosh, 20% of an unknown number, I need something for that. What about prescription coverage? That card, if you go to Walgreens and you need insulin and Eliquis and these different prescriptions that people take, it doesn't cover any prescriptions. So that's a gap. And what has happened is that these private insurance companies are filling the void. And so when you make this decision, what you're doing is you're solving for the gaps that Medicare leaves behind. And specifically, those gaps would be the 20% balance, prescription coverage, dental. Anybody think dental and teeth are expensive at this point of your life? Two people in here have asked about that, and I probably have had 10 conversations in the last 2 days about teeth. And so Medicare, just by itself, doesn't do anything for dental. Crowns, teeth cleanings, nothing like that.
Okay, so if I'm eligible and I want to enroll in Medicare, I could just do A and B. I don't have to do, if I'm relatively healthy and I'm not on regular, prescriptions, I could opt to not take any of the other plans.
In theory, you could.
Yeah, but it would be probably foolish.
I would say at this point, because of the awareness and the marketing and what your friends have and the plans everyone has, and the availability of plans that don't charge premiums, we'll talk about that. Everyone's seen these ads about $0 monthly premiums. The argument about stopping right there is that I don't want to spend anymore because I'm not on any medicine, right? Or I can't afford it. And so there are some products by insurance companies that kind of solve for that, but don't charge somebody an additional premium.
Okay.
And so
sounds great.
At this point in the stage of the game, I would say it is very, very rare that somebody comes in at 68 or 70 or meets with me for the first time, and the advice is, just take Medicare and let's worry about everything else later. So, briefly, if you're turning 65, you have 3 options to pick. And so this is more for the people who are not yet ready for Medicare. As you approach that age 65 window, what you'll find is that there's this big marketing push. Hey, don't mess this up. You get one chance to get in the program. Otherwise, you're penalized, or you might have pre-existings held against you. And so there's 3
Is that true?
It is, but the caveat is if you are working and you have an employer-sponsored plan through you or your spouse's employment, and they have more than 20 full-time employees, you can delay any and all parts of Medicare without penalty. So that's important. If you are aging into the system, don't automatically assume that you have to do something. Your buddy that told you you had to, that was true for him because he was retired. Maybe he was on Obamacare, he was on COBRA. He wasn't on this awesome 100% paid for plan through an employer. And so there's kind of three true outcomes that somebody turning 65 can do. They can do nothing and stay on their group insurance. They can take Part A only, which is the free part of Medicare. You'll kind of get their foot in the door, and then delay Part B until they no longer have group insurance.
So there is some actually free Medicare that you don't have to pay. It's just
Correct.
Part A.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you don't have credible coverage from that employer and you don't take Part B right at the time you're eligible, then there is a penalty. And so the confusion lies with your path into Medicare is different because of a second marriage, a relocation, a job. You might have younger kids that are still on your plan. And your brother, who went through this a year or two ago, he was by himself. And so he didn't have to figure out what happens with my spouse and my dependents. So he might have moved right into Medicare, but somebody who has group insurance that other people depend on, that's where this gets really tricky.
Yes.
Or really individualized.
So it's very
really
unique
quick.
to the individual person and what they have going on.
Correct.
Okay.
And so kind of a very common point of confusion is when you age into Medicare. What do I need to do? I don't want to be penalized. I hear that every day. And so that's an opportunity for someone like myself to help you. 5-minute conversation, we can tell you which door is the right door to go through. So, but then everybody else that's in here, you already walked through door number 3, 2 years ago, 7 years ago, whenever that was, right? You aged into Medicare, you came off of your group plan at 67, you got into Part B, and then these additional programs. So if we stop and say, okay, the top of this little triangle shape is the original Medicare benefit. That's that red, white, and blue Medicare card. And so if I just stop right there and I say, that's enough, I'll worry about this later. I have to pay the 20% balance, whatever that is. I have to pay everything for my prescriptions because I don't have drug coverage and I have no dental and no vision. And so very commonly someone will come in and say, hey, I need to solve for those things. What do I do? And so the way that you solve for that is you pick a path. And I would say this is the part where people are on Medicare. This is probably, if you could walk out of here kind of at the 3,000 foot level, I think I kind of get, like, the path is the $1 million decision that you make. And so the path feels a lot like the low, medium, and high option, right? Think of like homeowners insurance or other types of insurance that you've bought. This plan is cheaper, but it comes with more risk. I might have more out of pocket. This plan I pay more for, but when I go to the doctor, I don't have a copay. And so the left-hand side of the decision, which is called Medicare or original Medicare, which is that red, white, and blue card, plus a Medicare supplement and a drug plan. So if somebody solved that decision of what do I do for the 20%, what do I do for prescription coverage, going down the left-hand side, what they do is they buy a Medicare supplement or a Medigap plan. Everybody heard those terms before? So very simply put, what a Medicare supplement is it is a private insurance company, Blue Cross, United Healthcare, a lot of the names you'll hear and see on TV, but they pay second to Medicare. So as a consumer, when I walk into the doctor or the oncologist or I get my blood drawn, I show two cards. I show my A and B,
Red, white, and blue.
that one down there, and then I show my Medicare supplement card. And Medicare has no networks. So one of the great things about clients who decide to go down the left-hand side is they don't have to worry about, is my primary care doctor in my Medicare supplement network? If I travel a lot, can I see a doctor in Florida? My parents are on Medicare. They travel quite a bit. A couple of years ago, my dad had an episode in Virginia, and it was, Dad, just go to the emergency room, like worry about it later. And so that type of event, if you're on a Medicare supplement, there's no networks. So if you're looking at this decision from a cost is important, but it's not the primary motivator, I want the best coverage possible, then a lot of times the answer is to pick the left-hand side, go down the left path. Buy a Medicare supplement to cover that 20% exposure. So supplements always carry a lettered policy designation. Has anybody heard of Plan F or Plan G or Plan N? So those are iterations of Medicare supplements. And for simplicity, they're all almost the exact same. They're very, very similar.
Okay.
Plan G, by far, is the most popular plan now.
Okay, so if I'm purchasing a Plan G, okay, what would be a typical name I would call that?
I would label that your Medicare supplement or your Medigap
Okay,
plan.
and who would be the carrier of that plan?
There's an embarrassing amount of options,
Okay.
but in our market, it is AARP through United Healthcare, Blue Cross, and Cigna. I would say right now, those three insurance companies have the best rate and the best track record of keeping their premiums low. So, example, you come in, you turn 65, or maybe you're 70 and you're retiring and you need to get into Medicare, you would look at a Medicare supplement. And a Medicare supplement is going to cost anywhere between about $150 to $200 a month in our area,
Okay,
in addition to that Medicare fee.
okay,
And so, again, for clients who can afford that, they love the idea of, I go anywhere I want, there's no network restrictions, and then that supplement wraps around and pays the 20% balance pretty much from day one. And so there's no copay to see a specialist. There's no copay for physical therapy. There's no fees. That knee replacement, if I have a Medicare supplement Plan G from whatever company, I walk out of there paying $0 for that entire event. I mean, that's awesome.
and those plans for like a G plan, what is that based on? Is that based on
What is the price based on?
Yeah.
It is based off of the company, your gender, where you live, and the age you were at the time you buy it. The first time that you get into the Medicare program, so if we look back on your Part B card, everybody has a Part B effective date. Typically, that is the birthday month that you aged into Medicare, right? So if my birthday is January 10th of 1959, I'm on that list that all these, like, I embarrassingly know how to calculate how old people are based off of their birthday.
Yeah.
Because we do this all the time.
time.
So I know if you were born in 1958, you turn 65 this year, 54 next year. And so the age you were at the time you buy the plan determines the rate. So the younger you make that decision to get in
the lower
there.
your rate will be.
And then the first time that you enroll into Medicare Part B, you kind of step through door number 3 and go all the way through, you get one chance to buy the Medicare supplement without answering health questions. So that's important to know, because a lot of people are on Medicare Advantage, and we'll talk about that, and that's Medicare Advantage is great, we write a lot of it, but there's some risk there. So if you don't buy this Medicare supplement right out of the gate, then the other big variable on cost is your insurability, your health, your height and weight, your prescriptions. And so sometimes we have to be the bad guy and say, as much as you're willing to spend that, right, going back to, if I don't do this right away, I'm healthy and I'll wait, what's going to cause you to decide to go buy a supplement? Like most people,
Start having health problems and expenses.
you don't wake up and say, this year I'm going to get really sick. Let's do it. Right? It's inevitable. It's
Right.
the way aging works. And so that's the risk, is if you don't buy that supplement right out of the gate, you may or may not be insurable later on in life. And so that's just something that you need to be aware of.
Do most people do that? go ahead and buy it right from the get-go?
I would say 50% of people at this point, this is just my experience, go down the left-hand side still.
Okay.
They look at this and they say, you know what, I can afford $175 for Medicare. That is going to come out of my Social Security check, and I have to pay that no matter what. If that supplements an extra $160, and then I also have to add a drug plan on top of that, right? So go back to our homework. If I'm on Medicare, I need to cover the 20% prescriptions, dental, and vision. So to finish the package, most people buy a supplement, a Medicare drug plan, which is about $10 a month, and then they might add a dental and vision plan at about $50. So to simplify, that ends up being about $400 a month per person. And so,
So if you're a married couple,
it's $800 a month. And so that will solicit a, holy cow, I didn't realize it was that expensive.
Yeah.
Or, that's it. I'm on Cobra, me and my wife paying $2,000 a month. I can't wait to pay $800, right? And so it's very unique to your budget, your willingness and ability to pay. And if you have health issues, and we sit down and say, hey, you have one shot to do this. I'm on a really cheap plan right now, but I keep hitting that $5,000 or $6,000 deductible. Yes, I'll pay more here, but gosh, now I can go have that infusion. I can go have that surgery. I can go have, the physical therapy I feel like I need, and I don't have to decide if I can afford it or not. I've made that, if I get really sick, I don't have to pay a bunch of money out of pocket. I'm kind of prepaying it. And so for some people, that helps them sleep better at night. For other people, they look at that and think, I'm really healthy. There is no way I'm going to spend that amount of money on health insurance.
What were the three that you mentioned that were good in this area?
Cigna, United Healthcare through AARP, and then Anthem, Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
So
Aetna is not a big player on the Medicare supplement plans in our area. They are on the other side, the Medicare Advantage.
So, question for you. If I already have an Advantage plan, can I switch back to regular Medicare?
You can. And so the window to change paths is right now, the annual enrollment period. So if you're not on a Medicare supplement and you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you decide this is the year you would like to move back to the supplement and back to original Medicare, you would have to qualify medically to buy the Medicare supplement. And so it's, the reason why the supplement is a better product is because if you get sick, it pays everything no matter where you go. And has everybody heard the term managed care before? Pre-authorization, referrals. I slip and fall, I go into the hospital for 5 days, they want to send me to a nursing home, not forever, but to get my strength and my range of motion back. You probably see that, yeah. And so, how long can I stay in that facility?
Not very long.
It depends on your insurance sometimes. And so, original Medicare, the red, white, and blue, doesn't have any of that managed care component. So sometimes people, if you work in healthcare and you've messed with that your whole life, there is no way that I would go with an Advantage plan. I don't want to be in an HMO. I saw, in fairness, you only saw the really bad part of it. You didn't see the healthy people that it worked really well for, but that's just your experience. And so on a supplement, you don't have any of that managed care. It's wide open. You can go anywhere you want, and you can usually access a lot more care, a lot longer. So people who have health issues tend to kind of migrate towards the left-hand side when they make this decision. Or people who can afford it, I don't want to waste money, but I also understand that I'm going to use this as I get older, right? I mean, it's just the fact of life. Or maybe you saw your parents go through this. So the other way that you solve Medicare, the 20% prescriptions, dental, and vision, is you would opt for Medicare Advantage. And this is the market that has gone from 3 or 4 million people 10 or 20 years ago to over 50% of the population. So what we've had Yeah.
You're gonna have to hold it a minute here,
Sure.
because Medicare Advantage, this is where I get really confused, okay? What is Medicare Advantage versus these other things?
So Medicare Advantage is the low or medium option, the less expensive, but I take some more skin. I have some more skin in the game as a consumer.
Okay, so you're going to have more risk
Mhm.
as the person.
Correct.
But it's
In
a
exchange
lesser
for
cost.
lesser premiums. Yep.
Okay, and what would be some of those names of Medicare Advantage plans?
The exact same companies that sell supplements
Ah.
and prescription plans. And so that is where part of this confusion comes in, is we could have 10 people on a United healthcare plan. You gotta go with United. I love it. I go anywhere I want and everything's paid for. Really? I'm on United Healthcare, and that doctor you told me to see, they didn't take my insurance. And my United Healthcare plan, I have dental. You don't have dental. You guys have heard of Silver Sneakers, the free gym membership.
Yeah.
My plan has that, yours doesn't. And so that's a big point of confusion when we talk about, we put you on the spot and say, hey, explain your plan. Well, I have United Healthcare. That's fair.
Yeah, that's.
Which side is it on? People wrongly label Medicare Advantage a Medicare supplement all the time. Even people that I help, and I feel like I educate people really well on this, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years go by, it just becomes what I have. And so the same insurance companies, I would say in our market for next year, United Healthcare, Aetna, and Essence are the big three that we tend to write more often than anybody else.
Okay, so Aetna,
Mhm.
United Healthcare.
And Essence Healthcare.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. What about Humana?
Humana at the moment is not a big player in Metro St. Louis, meaning that maybe their copays at the doctor are higher than those other plans. Maybe their networks aren't as strong. Maybe like some of the ancillary benefits like dental and vision. And that's in Kentucky, Humana is king. Like their headquarters is in Kentucky. And so Medicare Advantage, kind of the concept, and I'll back up a quick second. If I'm on the left-hand side and I buy a Medicare supplement plan, for the most part, the doctor decides what type of care I receive. Original Medicare, if I stay in the original Medicare program, my physician submits a claim to Medicare. Carl, I had shoulder surgery recently. Time to get the rotator cuff operated on. All right, let's do it. If I was on Medicare, the doctor saying that I needed it is the catalyst for that claim to be covered. And then if I buy a Medicare supplement from one of those companies, they have to cover it. The rule is if Medicare approves it, the supplement pays no questions asked. They're buddy-buddy, for better or for worse.
Okay,
And
but
so-
it's different if you're on so the Medicare Advantage plan is totally different than a supplement.
That is the other path of this. And so there is a divide. What'd you do for your Medicare? Oh, I went with a supplement and a drug plan. Really? I went with Medicare Advantage. Why did you pick that side? Well, I can afford it. I travel a lot. I have a lot of health issues. I worked in healthcare, and I like this idea of, there's no managed care. The problem with the left-hand side is that it becomes buffet-style healthcare. If I'm paying my premium and everything is paid for, people start to get this break-even mindset. Or if I have physical therapy and I pay no copays, and the catalyst for what is covered is the PT telling me to keep coming, well, who's paying attention to cost? I'm not, because my insurance that I want my money out of pays everything. The physical therapist, hey, you keep coming, I keep getting paid, right? And so it's interesting that it's kind of, both sides are true, is that we should probably pay attention to cost, right? Because if you put 70 million people on Medicare like there is now, and you just give everybody free reign, wow, that gets expensive. We need to raise the Medicare fee. We need to raise taxes to keep that thing going. And so Medicare Advantage was created about 20 years ago to give seniors a choice to pick a different option to also kind of rein in cost. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
okay.
so Medicare Advantage, most of the plans that people buy, Aetna, Essence, United, there is $0 premiums. There's no additional premium that they pay above and beyond the Medicare fee. So everyone's kind of, what's the catch, right? There's no free
Yeah.
lunch. And so the trade-off is that if you opt for a Medicare Advantage plan, the government that typically pays 80% of your bill, whether you use it or not, the government will look at where you live. So again, clients that travel a lot, they may not want to box themselves into a network here locally. And Medicare Advantage, if you've read, there was a big Wall Street Journal article that came out yesterday that a lot of clients forwarded me. It is very regional and specific to where you live. You know, just like real estate, an acre of land in Ladue is a lot more expensive than down in the Boot Hill in Missouri, right? For a number of factors. And so Medicare Advantage, what happens is the government says, Rita, you live in St. Charles County. The average person in St. Charles County will spend about $15,000 a year over the course of their life with Medicare covering the 80% of their bill. Does that make sense? So if I'm on Medicare...
Say that again, yeah.
Sure. So if I'll turn 40 this year. So I'm paying into Medicare. Every time I get a paycheck, a chunk of that comes out and I pay for Medicare. And that's fine. I hope it's there when I turn 65. I hope I'm around when I turn 65.
Yeah.
But then when I go to draw it, the idea is like I've kind of paid into the programs so I can afford $175. If Medicare wasn't subsidized through payroll, it would be $1,000 a month for Medicare. It'd be so crazy expensive. But then the trade-off is that now Medicare pays 80% of my bill, whether I use it or not. And so statistically, over your lifetime, you will average out about $15,000 a year for Medicare to cover 80% of nothing when you're 65 because you're really healthy. My grandma's in her mid-90s, and she accesses a lot more than $15,000 a year worth of care right now to keep her going. And so we blend that out, and what happens is Medicare in Metro St. Louis, it's about $15,000. In Miami, it's $22,000. In Montana, it's $9,000. And so that money, that chunk of money, is what goes to these Medicare Advantage companies. Or said another way, Medicare says, here, Essence, we're going to pay you what we expected to pay for your care. It might be higher, it might be lower, it just depends on the year. But you guys go make it work. And so as a consumer, as a senior, when I elect Medicare Advantage, I still have to pay that Medicare fee. It comes right out of my social, it's still income-based, but then the government pays Essence, Aetna, United, the $10,000 to $20,000 of reimbursement per person per year. That is a lot of money. A lot of billions, trillions of dollars. And so 20 years ago, that didn't exist. So we talk about the gold rush, the marketing, the confusion. If I'm the CEO at United Healthcare, we need to figure out how we get our message out to people. TV ads, billboards, digital ads now, spam calls, and people that elect Medicare Advantage opt into the private version of Medicare Advantage that they select. And that's not right or wrong, but Medicare Advantage, most plans are $0 premiums.
So this was one thing I got. Actually, my husband got in the mail, but he's not 65.
I bet you everybody in this room got that exact same flyer yesterday.
So yeah, I've gotten a couple of them.
Yeah.
So it's for Humana, and it says, enjoy an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan with a plan premium as low as $0 a month. So that's
Sign me
true.
up.
That's true, right? Okay. So call now.
Let's use this as an example.
Sure.
So let's pretend that you bought this plan today, and let's pretend you're turning 65. Okay? So you would sign up for Medicare, and you would say, Carl, I just can't justify spending $150 a month. I don't go to the doctor. I can't afford that. I'm worried about the 20%. I'm worried about prescriptions. I'm worried about dental. That's kind of the big buzzword at the moment. What else you got? And so we would say, okay, the supplement, the left-hand side of this decision, that's not right for you. And it might be right for your siblings or your spouse, but not for you. So then Medicare Advantage would replace your Medicare benefits. So instead of getting your 80% coverage for the knee replacement through the government, original Medicare, you would get it through Humana. And so the trade-off, the catch, is that Humana becomes your primary insurance and replaces Medicare. So I still pay for it, I still have that red, white, and blue card, I just put it away. And now I get a Humana Gold Advantage HMO card, or Freedom PPO, or AARP Walgreens, or Essen. I mean, there's so many of these now. But that plan becomes my primary insurance. And so as a consumer, this is where I get frustrated, because I kind of feel like the negatives of Medicare Advantage are not really talked about, right? You respond to these ads, and no one's telling you the version of this that the doctors see, that the nursing home admission person sees. And so that frustrates me, because, a lot of people, this is a confusing subject. And so you're taking someone's advice, and the sales pitch on Medicare Advantage can feel all upside and no downside.
Yeah. So this says I call this 800 number, and I'm going to do it.
And so the good and the bad on Medicare Advantage. So the good is that the 20% that we have to pay, right? That was part of our homework assignment. I have copays, right? So anybody on Medicare Advantage, if you go see a specialist, you probably pay between $20 and $40 every time you go. That's a reasonable number. If I have physical therapy, I pay $20 or $30. So Medicare Advantage kind of feels like group insurance from 30 years ago. It's on an HMO or a PPO. So as a consumer, if I'm buying Medicare Advantage, one of the things I would ask you is, well, what doctors do you see? Because Humana may or may not have those doctors in network. And so if your friend swears Humana is the greatest thing in the world, but your doctor's not in network and that doctor saved your life and you want to keep seeing her, I would say that's probably a bad fit for you, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe your doctors are in Aetna. Maybe they're in United Healthcare. Maybe they don't take any of those plans because they get so frustrated that they have to do all these pre-authorizations and rules that they just say, you know what, forget this. I'm going to go back and only mess with Medicare because it doesn't have those rules. And so as a consumer...
you're saying doctors.
Yeah, or healthcare. Yeah, you can, there are in Oregon, in California, not in St. Louis yet, but we have had, pushback from the healthcare systems saying, come in and look at a day. I treat you for 10 minutes and I spend 35 minutes messing with it, getting approval to draw your blood. And as a business owner, I get $36 from Medicare. If I'm paying somebody $38 to do that, to fight you, that's not good business. And so sometimes these advantage plans can kind of show their weaknesses, not when you're healthy, right? Because you don't use it a lot. Then it sounds pretty darn good. I just pay my $40 copay to go to the doctor. And so 20% is paid through copays. So if I'm on a Medicare Advantage plan, I'm not prepaying the Medicare supplement premium, right? If I'm healthy, I should have canceled the supplement because I didn't use it this year. If I have cancer, I'm really glad I have a supplement because it paid everything. A Medicare Advantage plan, I save that premium and I trade off these copays. And then the copays have what's called a maximum out of pocket. So every year during this time on Medicare Advantage, your company, the one you picked, sends you what's called an ANOC, Annual Notice of Change. I hate that acronym, but it's kind of helpful to remember. So ANOC, this is what we did this year. $10 copay, your doctor was in network, we had dental, we didn't have dental. This is what we're doing next year. And the confusion... So
that's a notice from your current carrier.
Everybody in here should have got one in the last month. And let's fess up. Did anybody read theirs?
I think I got my mom's and I didn't know
It's
what it was. I
intimidating.
didn't
Is
understand it.
this a phone book? Like, do they mail these things out still? Yeah.
Since you're talking about capitating on the part of the Medicare Advantage plan,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in golden standings, had no real problem. I got referred to an ophthalmologist, and now I'm at an ophthalmologist every 6 months till I die, and I haven't gotten glasses changed, so I used to go in once a year and get new glasses. Their referral, they were all Luxottica brands. I couldn't go to Walmart, I had to go to one of the hundreds of Luxottica places. I said, what's this going to cost me with and without insurance? $360 with, $370 without. I said, I'll save them the money. I wrote them a check for $370. I looked on my portal and I said, I'm a diabetic, I'm going to an ophthalmologist next week, don't check for diabetes, don't check for anything, do refractions. They added $1,300, showed up, so there's $1,700 for a stupid pair of glasses. Showed up internally on their payments back to Luxottica.
Yeah.
So what's CVS doing with Luxottica? What is this unholy thing where they're racking things up by 600%?
I would first say don't lose those things. Those sound pretty expensive.
Yeah, well, I got bad eyes.
Yeah, you
I
got
went to Walmart, I said, what would these cost? And she looks at this, $360. So it's a 360 pair of cheap-ass glasses that was billed back through Luxottica to CVS for $1,300. And I said fraud,
Yeah.
and it's off my, but it was on there. What are they doing? What are they,
So-
are they playing tax loss, funny stuff?
Maybe, or what has changed in the last couple of years is that there's this term called vertical integration, where now Aetna was bought by CVS. So as Aetna grew this membership, don't let people go to Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, drive all the traffic to one spot. And if you do that, we'll discount the price of lisinopril and statins and all these scripts, but we got to go there. And so then that works. So then CVS bought Aetna, and now CVS is, driving the traffic to one lens or eyeglasses provider, Luxottica, I think is what you
Which
said.
has 80% of it.
They do, yeah.
Anyway.
Some of it is just so darn confusing. I live and breathe this stuff, and I walk away thinking, like, you could not screw this up anymore if that was your number one goal, was to make our healthcare system as confusing as possible. It would probably be easier than what it is now. And so there is an element of, what's the price without insurance? Forget it. I'll just pay it. I do that with my own healthcare. It's frustrating. It is always frustrating. The explanation of benefits that these companies send out might as well, be in Greek. I mean, they're very confusing sometimes. But these advantage plans, the appeal as a consumer is that the government pays me, Aetna, Humana, whoever it is, and then that plan provides all of your care. And right now, we're in a position where the government is paying tons of money to these advantage plans. So they're coming back. Do you have that flyer?
Yeah.
They're coming back and saying, hey, people on the left-hand side that bought the supplement 3, 5, 10 years ago, we know the weaknesses there. The weaknesses on a supplement is that you're paying an extra premium. The weaknesses is that most of the time you have to add a separate dental plan for $40, $50 a month. Or a lot of times we'll tell clients it's not even worth buying. I know teeth are expensive, but dental insurance kind of stinks no matter what. So the draw on Medicare Advantage is, hey, look, we'll give you a dental included in the plan. We'll give you vision included in the plan. We'll give you silver sneakers. It has gotten so insane that next year there is a plan, I kid you not, that will pay $1,200 a year for greens fees, pickleball equipment, personal training.
Yeah, I read that.
They will pay, you guys use these OTC catalogs? Yeah. So the government is funding that side so heavily that these advantage, it's like an arms race, is how do we convince Lynn to switch to the plan Rita has? Well, add some more dental, add some more vision, try this benefit. There's some plans in Florida that will pay for robotic dogs to combat loneliness. The idea is that the private world can provide this experience better than the government. And, is that true? Maybe. A lot of times it is, but then if you learn the limitations of Medicare Advantage, the fact that they may not have a nursing home in your backyard, the network might force you to go where you don't want to go. The eyeglasses story, the copays start to mount up. And you think, I'm not using the over-the-counter, I'm not using the pickleball, I had both my knees replaced, like these bells and whistles are starting to kind of exhaust me because you have to remember to use them, and they change from time to time. I think I want to go back to the more comprehensive, more expensive program, because now that access to care is a lot more important to me.
So talking about location and where you live, so that's very important when you're talking about Medicare Advantage.
Or just the concept in general, correct?
Okay.
So a lot of clients we work with will spend multiple weeks and months in other parts of the country. And so if you're on like Aetna Gold Advantage, like an HMO plan here in St. Louis, you can't go to Mayo Clinic proactively. You can't go have a cortisone shot in your knee in Virginia because it's an HMO plan. Part of the trade-off is if I go with the Medicare Advantage plan, in the fine print, when you sign up for that thing, you call the licensed sales rep, it's disclosed in times 10 speed, or really not at all sometimes. You agree to follow all the rules of Humana. Part of those rules is that this is a managed care plan. So the decision maker of whether you can have your knee replaced is the doctor turning the homework into the private insurance company. And most of the time, the story adds up. Yeah, you've been, 4, 5, 6 cortisone shots over your last couple of years. It's time. And so most of the time, the experience that people have on Medicare Advantage is great. I would bet, in general, most people are like, these horror stories or these real life stories, but negatives of that path, like, hasn't happened to me. And it doesn't. I sell a lot of Advantage. If it was really crummy every time, I wouldn't sell it. But it has that, well, what if? What if? I didn't know I needed to go to Mayo Clinic for the first 73 years of my life. And now I do. And it's the most important thing in the world. That's the other side of this that I think is not even brought up with these solicitations. And so sometimes the story is, well, why would anybody go with a supplement? Look, dental, vision, seniors kayaking on the river or whatever. Like, it's just, it sounds great, and it is great, but it can have these gotchas that if you work in healthcare, you hear about all the time. If you're taking care of aging parents who are really, in their late 80s, 90s, that is when this side can kind of wink at you. And then the facility, the doctor, the infusion center, if you go back to original Medicare, we don't have to fight with the insurance company. We just turn the bill in, they pay us the 80%. You should go get a supplement. Carl, I got your name from so-and-so. I'm 82. I have macular degeneration. I'm ready to buy a supplement. Sign me up. I don't really care how much it costs at this point. Okay.
Oh, medical underwriting?
How old are you? How much do you weigh? What medicine are you? Oh, shoot, you have shots in your knee. You have cancer. You have AFib. You're uninsurable. As much as you want to go buy that supplement, you waited too late. You waited one day too late. You waited 22 years too late. Like, it doesn't matter at that point. You kind of get stuck in a really good spot most of the time, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. But that is the aha moment I hope you can kind of take away from this, is that there is no wrong answer. Being on an independent side, like I tell people all the time, is I don't care who you buy. We get paid about the same on all this stuff. But you need to make sure that you understand the pros and cons. And the con of the supplement is very in front of you right now. You have to pay $210 a month for that supplement this month, and next month, and the next month. The advantage, the weakness may never show up, or it could show up at the time you really need to lean on that thing as hard as possible. You just don't know.
So you've probably explained this over and over, but I have to get it clear in my head. So when I'm at, say, healthcare providers, I hear a lot of them saying, or maybe it's the senior living community, they talk about, oh, he's on original Medicare. So what they're really saying is,
They went down the left-hand side.
They went down the left-hand side.
Yep.
Okay, which is
The more expensive,
Expensive.
but more open and comprehensive setup.
which do you ever, if you sign up for that originally, when you first are eligible, then there's no medical underwriting?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So that's, for the people who are coming into this system, that's just something to be aware of, is that if you have health issues right out of the gate, you may only have one shot at 65 to buy the supplement. If you start there and in 1, 3, 5 years you get better, or your finances change, whatever it might be, you have the flexibility to change your mind, to go from the high end to the medium end or the low end, Medicare Advantage. And that is, to be very candid with you, that's what's happening, right? We talked about 3 million people a number of years ago up to 35 or 40 million. Where are those people coming from? They're coming from this side, and they're clients that I sold Medicare supplements to 7 years ago. Carl, this thing has been great. 4 years ago I had cancer and all this stuff happened, but man, the rates keep going up. And my cost of living adjustment's only 3%, and I had to help my grandkids out that I didn't know, and I'm in a different position financially. I don't think I want to do this anymore. And so we kind of compound that with, I talk to all my friends, and they're all on these Advantage plans, and they're telling me how great it is, and they tell me they get new pickleball rattles, and they get OTC stuff and vitamins and minerals, and they get to go to the gym for free, and all that is true, and I'm ready to make a change. Okay, let's make sure you're fully vetted on this. Don't just go buy the plan your buddy has because he swears it's the best thing in the world. 2 reasons. One is his situation health-wise may be way different than yours, right? So don't just go jump in the plan he has because he doesn't see the same doctor. And the other side of this is people don't brag about the pre-authorization. My plan was great. It took 48 hours to get a call back when I thought I was having, a heart attack. You should buy this plan. It was great. The dentist that I could go see was 100 miles away. Let me give you the name of the plan and go sign. Like, no one brags about that, right? It's just, it's a little frustrating. It's kind of embarrassing. And, you might have long-term consequences from that too. Or, my husband was in pain for 3 days waiting for the pre-authorization on my plan. So you just have to kind of remember that sometimes there's 2 sides to the story.
So do medical professionals, this is like real life question, not supposed to, but is there medical professionals that, I think you kind of commented on this, that you're not going to get the same level of care if you're on a Medicare Advantage versus supplement?
I think if the microphone was off and I was talking to you privately, I would say, 100%. In general, I think my mom was a doctor. I am very biased towards, doctors are awesome because I saw my mom growing up. And so I would say 99% of doctors, I don't care what insurance you have, I will try to help you. But sometimes the help is predicated on your insurance. And so, as much as we don't want to believe that, your decision here can influence what type of care you can get. I'm sure people in here have heard or seen a loved one kind of get booted out of a facility faster than you thought they should have. That is the black eye of Medicare Advantage. I probably get a call a month or a quarter from somebody that either I wrote an Advantage plan for, or the kids found us online or whatever it is, and they're like, we got to get mom out of this thing. I'm 39, I work in finance, I don't know what Medicare is, but I just know the plan mom has is not working because she needs to go into a nursing home and she had a stroke 5 days ago. I immediately know that mom is probably on a Medicare Advantage plan. That's kind of the weakness of it.
So that really, personally, I'm dealing with my mom's medical situation, healthcare, hospital, rehab, senior living, all that. So she is on a Humana Medicare Advantage plan. So I kind of get it now. Okay.
Question?
I have Aetna, and they're increasing their dental, supposedly. But when I found out, last year I went through 3 different dentists who called me. I had an appointment for cleaning, And they said, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Anyway, so I have an appointment for a cleaning. They call me up 2 weeks before. They say, oh, I'm sorry, we no longer take Essence. And I've been through this with Essence, a lot.
Yeah.
And then I have to go to an endo dentist, and he's the only one in he's nuts. And I'm like, so what's this? So I have this increasing dental care, and what am I supposed to? I don't know. Who has the best dental care advantage? That's what I'm really interested in.
Aetna Gold Advantage on the right-hand side.
Oh, okay.
And that is a perfect example of dental is never as good as you want it to be. So if you're looking at this decision, specifically if you're on a Medicare supplement and you're thinking now is the time to switch to an Advantage plan, don't do it for the bells and whistles, because they're never as, you call Humana, our dental is so great, there's 4,000 dentists that take it, and that was true the provider directory is outdated as soon as they tell you that, but don't do it for the bells and whistles. Do it because you feel like you are tired of paying that premium, you feel like you can't afford it, you are ready to just make a change, whatever it might be. Because if you go jump for the dental and then you find out that it's not anywhere near what you hoped, and then you have a health event, and now you find out that Essence kind of limits where you can go sometimes, and you think this is a forever pre-existing I have, you might have just shot yourself in the foot, and now you can't get back onto that supplement. And you can have that buyer's remorse of, well, why did I make this jump? It's because the sales rep said it was so great, or my friends swore up and down it was awesome. And it might have been for them without that experience of, a catastrophic illness or something. Yep.
I want to know the difference between the HMO and the PPO.
So if we, and I'm happy to field questions, because I think this is the $1 million decision, right? So the government pays these insurance companies the money, right? About $15,000 on Humana HMO, Essence HMO, Aetna Gold Advantage. Next year, I believe there are 41 flavors of Medicare Advantage that somebody in St. Charles County can buy. Essence sells 5 plans, 5 versions of it. Aetna sells 5 or 6. Humana sells 5 or 6. The hospital systems are getting into this. SSM has their own branded Medicare Advantage plan. Why is all the money going to the insurance company? It should go to the hospital. Let's start our own insurance company.
What is theirs called?
Well First. It's not very popular, but... So and so when you guys go home today, you're going to go to your mailbox, you're going to get all these ads. 90% of them we're going to put over here. $0 premium, all-in-one coverage, smiling senior, dental. And that stuff is true, but it's, salesy, so there's a little bit of, clutter in there. But this government money that goes to the insurance company can then give it back to you in the form of an HMO, health maintenance organization, or a PPO, preferred provider organization. So HMO plans are the more restrictive, right? The more control I agree to give the insurance company, the more that they can drive all that traffic to CVS, right? And then CVS discounts the cost of the medicine, and so then Aetna shares in that savings by giving you a lower copay. So an HMO plan, the more control I give up, the more dental I get, the more OTC, the lower my copay if I have an emergency room visit. But the trade-off is that I might need a referral from my primary care doctor every time, which a lot of times is I don't get a lot of negative feedback on the referral process unless the doctor's office kind of screws it up over and over again. And then that can be very frustrating, right? You show up to the doctor and they're like, oh, you didn't get the referral. Well, they were supposed to send it and they didn't, and now it's awkward. Or let's say you wanted to go out of network. There's this surgeon that could fix you up in a year that we didn't know about today, and he's not in Aetna HMO. The HMO plan is more restrictive, so you can't go out of the network. And the trade-off is that you stay in the network and your copays are less. The same concept, Aetna sells a 0 premium PPO plan. And so we're still on this side, you still save the Medicare supplement fee, but the PPO plan is less restrictive. So I don't need a referral. If I want to have an MRI, on some PPO plans, they may say, hey, that's not super expensive. Go have that done without this scrutiny, this pre-authorization. Whereas the HMO might say, we only let you have an MRI after you've had an X-ray and then done some physical therapy. Well, the doctor wants me to get an MRI. Like, who are you to say that you need to do this first? And that's that managed care. It's more evident on an HMO, which means that sometimes you might not have the MRI, right? Because of the hurdles.
So all of the managed care thing falls under the Medicare Advantage, these extra hoops or the gatekeepers there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the PPO plan tends to be more liberal. And you can, I should have said this earlier, but you can switch versions of Medicare Advantage without answering any health questions. So there, a really good resource we can provide is to troubleshoot your current plan. If you could change 5 things on your plan, what would you change? The dental, always, right? Because it's never enough. This darn referral, I feel like half the time I go, it gets screwed up, or I forget as a consumer. That's easy to fix. Let's just move you from HMO to PPO. That type of stuff. So
you don't have to have referrals on PPO?
you do not.
But you have a higher deductible, don't you, on PPOs?
Not a deductible. So this is the attraction on Medicare Advantage. You would salivate over the benefits of an Advantage plan. I would too. $0 copay to see a primary care doctor. Mine's like $50 right now. $25 to see a specialist. Mine's like $100. My shoulder surgery cost me like $2,000 or $3,000 out of pocket. On an Advantage plan, it's just copays, right? Because remember, Medicare pays 80% of the bill. So when the government pays the Advantage plan, they have to cover that 80% kind of right away. So most of the plans, HMO and PPO, have no deductible for a hospital stay, for an MRI, that type of
Question?
I guess I used to do they had a deductible, a while back.
Yeah, and these Advantage plans have gotten way more attractive in the last 3 or 4 years. So deductibles are gone. Copays went from 10 at primary to 0. It's this very interesting shift because the insurance companies make more money if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan than a supplement.
So that's good reason to evaluate your plan every year.
So a great example of this is to relay the pricing on these plans, and the offer now feels a lot like the cable industry. We probably all pay for internet, and we probably all have about the same thing. But you might pay half as much as I do because you're the new customer.
Yeah.
My grandma, God love her, has the most expensive charter cable package. It's like $400 a month. She loves TV, she's got health issues, but now her vision is she doesn't even watch it. And so, Grandma, do you really need HBO and cinema? All these things that were free when you moved up here from Florida 5 years ago, but now who knows how much you're paying. And so the point I would say is that if you don't look at this every year, every couple of years, whatever it is, you might find yourself on an Advantage plan that has an $80 premium that comes out of your Social Security check so you don't realize it, a $7,000 maximum out of pocket, $50 copays, no dental, no vision. It was the hot setup 8 years ago when you looked at this, but now Humana or Essence or Aetna, they all do it, has eroded that thing slowly but surely, and then come out to the new customer with the hot setup.
So you could be on an old plan and be paying more and not have as much benefits.
100%. And we see that.
And it just auto renews.
We see that happen all the time for older clients because you get into this, go back to who's changed their plan in the last 5 or 10 years. You don't have a resource, or you don't know that there's some similarities between the two, or you just get so nervous about messing something up, right? And totally understand
So
that.
this is what you guys do, is you will look at someone's, whatever they're doing, whether it's a year old or 5 or 20 years old.
Yeah.
All right, would you just mention hearing aids? because I know that's new, that they're covered with a lot.
Yeah.
You can get it for 100 or 2 instead of 2,000 each.
So the extra benefits on Medicare Advantage that have really been heavily utilized and started to have some value. The dental, next year there's a dental plan with a $3,000 reimbursement for any dentist. So that's unique in that I don't have to, figure out I'm a cash payer at the dentist. I get my crown, it's $2,000, and this plan gives me $3,000, like up to $3,000 back. Like that's pretty powerful. The hearing aid benefit is also, there's some plans next year that cover $3,000 per ear per year.
Ear per year?
I know, that's hard to say. And then vision is always another one that's heavily utilized. And so in my mind, if you're looking at Medicare Advantage, those are great. That can break a tie, but don't change your primary and your oncologist. And, let's make sure that we, acknowledge that this is still healthcare. Don't buy your Advantage plan for the OTC benefit being a little bit stronger.
Linda?
Part D, can I ask you a question
Yeah.
on that? Every year I go online and do that search for the best Part D. But the last couple of years, they have not been correct.
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it?
Is that what you found?
Correct in the sense that you thought a drug was covered and then you go to get it filled and the pharmacist is
It comes
the
out
pricing.
as you're paying all of these extra fees for drugs, and then when you go to the company, they say that it's actually $10 per prescription, and it's listed as $80.
Yeah.
And then so you have to not only go through that procedure, but you have to call the individual companies to be sure that that it's covered the way they said.
Right.
And another thing, they will say sometimes that it's covered for $8, and it's actually $50.
Right.
So are you talking about an online resource that you're
Yes.
looking at?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and what is that? Medicare.gov?
Yes, Medicare.gov, and you look at all the plans that are available for Part D.
Okay, and you're saying that information is not accurate? Not always?
It never,
Well,
I
that's a couple
would
of
mirror,
dollars.
we are right in the weeds there with you on that all. So what she's talking about, yeah.
From October to December.
Yep. So when you're on Medicare, you have drug coverage, right? Everybody in here on Medicare has Part D. And you can buy your drug benefit separately if we're on the supplemental side, where you buy, next year there's a plan called WellCare that has a $0 premium, like that's kind of new. But each plan can pick which eye drop they cover, which blood pressure medicine, what pharmacy they want you to use. And that happens on the Medicare Advantage side too. Everything's kind of bundled together there on the Advantage side. And so what you can do is there's a tool online called the Medicare.gov Plan Finder. I'm on that website 3 to 10 hours a day. This kind of it's we do reviews for clients to make sure kind of what you're doing. It's like it's a matchmaking. I take these 7 drugs. My plan premium is this. But it's so frustrating because the data is 75% accurate, and
It's not even bad.
yeah, it's very
The only thing that's accurate that I found is the charge per month.
the premium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after going through it, I've found the last 2 or 3 years, your best bet is to take the lowest premium per month, because
It's the only thing you can count on.
Yep.
that's the only thing that you can count on, and they, the drug charges that it's a beautiful tool if it were accurate.
I kind of explain it as like you are shopping for gasoline next year, taking the price at Quick Trip today, and not knowing how many vacations you're going to drive to, right? Like, well, I guess we go to Shell, right? I mean, it's just you have to kind of have a little bit of a blind leap of faith, but then you might, never go to Shell, or you might need a lot more volume. I didn't realize I was going to have skin cancer next year. It wasn't in my cards in October.
So, Carl, there's a question back there.
Yeah.
May I please ask, we have the sheet for questions for the Q&A time. Let's hold the questions so that he can finish his material for the day, please.
So, was there something specific you wanted to make sure we got in?
No, I just want him to be able to finish his.
Okay, so I wanted you specifically to talk about changes in 2024.
Sure. So I would, the marketing message of changes in Medicare is blown out of proportion to the nth degree. So the structure of this has not changed in 25 years. Everybody on Medicare has A and B, you pay a premium, the premium goes up, you know, it is what it is. Medicare is Medicare. And then the change, it's not like Medicare is, well, you know, they don't cover hip replacement this year. Oh my gosh, that's the change of Medicare. Like that really doesn't happen. And so this marketing term of, oh, you didn't hear about the changes in Medicare? Well, no, what did I miss, right? Like, well, I've got a guy, let me sell your information to 6 people to call you and they'll tell you about the changes. And then those 6 people pay the marketing engine, right, the leads, and then they harass you for the rest of your life. And it's like, well, what were the changes? What do you mean changes? Like, what are you talking about? And so I would...
So what are the changes?
Calm that down a little bit and say the biggest changes on a regulatory level has to do with the prescription coverage. And you said it was your favorite word, the donut hole. So,
Love the donut hole.
who hates the donut hole? I do. I despise it. Yes. So on your Medicare drug plan, Medicare from 1960 to 2003 did not have prescription coverage, which is crazy to think. But Part D, the Medicare drug benefit, is still kind of a teenager. Like it's growing up still. And so what happened is back in 2006, the government passed this law. It's called the Medicare Modernization Act. And it said, hey, we're going to let insurance companies sell seniors prescription drug coverage. Great. Who decides the rules? Well, not the government. Here, insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies. You guys go in the room and you tell us how to solve for this. Well, that, you know, you just let the fox in the hen house. You let the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry design this thing. Well, whose interests are they looking out for? Right? That was basically how we've gotten to where we are. So the story is that when you're on Medicare, you have coverage up to a certain amount, and then that coverage goes away. And I explain it like a bucket. Like this year, everybody on Medicare got their own little personal $5,000 bucket of money. And some people spend that $5,000 in one day. They're on Imbruvica, which is a breast cancer medicine that costs $15,000 a month. Other people are on 20 generics that are 25 cents, $3. You know, I never spend the $5,000. And so what counts towards the donut hole, this $5,000 bucket, is the sticker price of your medicine. So right now, it's all about Ozempic, Mounjaro, Eliquis, Restasis is an eye drop for dry eye. Those drugs are about $1,000 a month. And they're going to be this is like, oh, well, gosh, Linda, gas is 22 cents at the Phillips 66. Well, if it's $4 everywhere else, like, is that real, is that real gas?
Yes.
Or like, it's too good to be true. So the pricing on these meds it'll vary a little bit, but Ozempic, which is a diabetic medicine that's shown to have weight loss side effects, is $1,000 a month on group insurance. And so when I'm on a Medicare plan, I walk into the pharmacy and I say, hey, here's my Essence prescription card. It's a $35 or a $50 copay. So there's this math problem of I pay $50, my insurance company pays $950, right? Because the sticker price is $1,000, so 50 plus $950. The $1,000 comes out of my little personal bucket. So now I have $4,000 left. If my wife is only on lisinopril, which is a blood pressure medicine we see everybody take, that drug is like $1. And it's a tier 1 and it's free. And so she pays $0, she gets her one prescription, and $1 comes out of her bucket. If you exhaust that $5,000 amount in a calendar year, you fall into stage 3, which is the donut hole. And so your coverage gets worse. And what used to happen when this came out is when you fell in the donut hole, your bucket was at like $2,000 and you had to pay 100% of the negotiated price of your medicine. So Ozempic, which wasn't around back then, would, $50 copay, $1,000 comes out of my bucket, $50 copay. I already ran out of money and it's only February. And now when I go back, they want $1,000 for that drug. Let's just put that one back. And what else can I get that's reasonable? And most people, if you're on something like that, might take other medications too that are $300, $400, $800. And so this donut hole was a big issue because people would just stop taking their prescriptions. And so what we've had is we've had 2 swings at reform on this.
Okay.
One was in 2010, which changed the landscape. It said, hey, we're going to minimize the donut hole, but it still exists. And so in 2010, we had this kind of 10-year, from 2010 to 2020, which is how the numbers are now, the bucket filled up every year. So you got 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 3,500, to where we sit now, it's right at about 5,000.
Okay.
And then when you fall in the donut hole, instead of paying 100%, it was graduated 90, 80, 60, 50, to where it sits today is you pay 25% of the negotiated price of your medicine.
So that's where we sit right now.
That's
But
the
is
donut
that-
hole.
Is that changing?
It is.
Okay.
So back up real quick. A common call we'll get is, Carl, the setup you got me, the Advantage plan, the supplement, and the drug plan, even if you go on the more expensive side, you have this issue. And so you might buy the really inexpensive drug plan and then have a health event or be on a 0 premium Advantage plan and now need these expensive drugs and think, well, Carl, it's July. Like the pharmacist said I was in the donut hole. I don't really get it. Like, I just need to come see you and buy a plan that doesn't have the donut hole. And it's like, well, you're the 10th person this week. People tend to fall into this in the same time if they're taking the same medications.
Yeah.
And so every plan has a donut hole.
Every plan.
Every individual plan that somebody can buy. This is where if mom and dad or you have TRICARE, like retiree healthcare, some of these retiree plans, I looked at one yesterday through a widow who had a Nokia retiree healthcare plan.
Okay.
And her plan didn't have a donut hole. And so she was so excited to go to an Advantage plan and get the silver sneakers and all these other things, but she was on a ton of medicine. And so it was like, you just need to stay where you're at. As much as you think this is going to save you money, you are on some expensive meds that is going to be really problematic because of this donut hole. But those retiree plans are few and far between. I mean, most companies have degraded them to where they've sold out, they've kicked you off, they beat up the pension, whatever it is. So most people at this stage in the game, you just have to live with this. But in 2022, the government passed a law called the Inflation Reduction Act.
So Carl, we are running long on time. So
Okay.
real quick,
Yeah.
can you?
So
get
the
to-
Inflation Reduction
Yep.
Act did 2 things. One is that it limits the exit point of the donut hole this year. So it helps some people. But then in 2025, there is going to be a cap on prescription drug copays at $2,000 for every plan moving forward. And so when we talk about the changes, but in fairness, this affects every single plan. So it's not like you have to go shop to go get this benefit. It will be implemented into the whatever version of Medicare you have.
Across the board.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's a really good, positive thing that's coming.
The big question that,
Although
how do we pay for it?
Costs go
Right.
up, yeah.
And so again, if I go back to this, these drug plans specifically have really gone haywire next year. Like we've seen some go from $20 to $120 a month. Like it has really just shook up the left-hand side. And then I would say the other changes we see is this arms race of Medicare Advantage, really fighting over those extra benefits, the dental specifically. And so if you've sat on your plan for a number of years just thinking, hey, this has been pretty good, and your teeth need some attention, there are a lot of Advantage plans that are new for next year. So, you couldn't buy them last year or the year before that really have strong dental benefits. So that would be another, change to maybe throw out there.
So hurry up and use those dental benefits before something changes.
Yeah, they reset every year also.
Yeah, okay. So you talked about a website, it's a government website that is not accurate.
It means well.
Where can you go to educate yourself?
Medicare.gov is a great tool. Like it's a great tool. So I would say that is like the best source of information. The state of Missouri has it's called SHIP, SHIP.org. Actually, it's MissouriClaim.org.
Yes.
So that's like it's more or less retired insurance agents who want to kind of give back. They can't. I sell this stuff, so I have a financial interest. Like if I sell you an Advantage plan, I get paid. If I sell you a supplement, I get paid. So SHIP doesn't let a broker assist there, but it's people who worked in healthcare or like you guys like to educate yourself on this stuff, and so you may find a rhythm where like I kind of know my friends are coming to me. Hey, how do I give back? They can volunteer. That's a good start, but gosh, this stuff is just so like dynamic and specific to you. That can be kind of tricky. There's publications like AARP puts a lot of stuff out. Yeah.
This is just yesterday's, and all of us, if you're getting, you guys
Yeah.
don't, you might want to.
I get it.
I have been an ARC member since I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
So
I thought they want you to wait till you're 50, 55.
if
You can join anytime.
if you sell enough of their supplemental.
The special report is all about the future of Medicare. And more older Americans are enrolled most in private Advantage plans than in the original Medicare.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've been talking about. And so it's just this interesting, I love reading about this stuff. Like personally, I just find it so fascinating and so screwed up. Like that is honest to say, but I just find that very interesting.
So when Biden talks about negotiating, because I figure we're negotiating drugs, and I figure PBMs buy drugs. The federal government doesn't buy drugs.
Yeah.
What does this mean? Is this what he's referring to? What does?
Yeah, so part of the Inflation Reduction Act was also this, we go back to when Part D was created, and the insurance company and the pharmaceutical company made the rules. One of the biggest rules that they made was we don't want to negotiate with the government as a whole. Every other industry, the defense industry, Boeing negotiates with the government for this purchase of 600 planes and tanks and whatever it is. So you can get this volume discount. But when Part D came out, the insurance and the pharmacy companies didn't want to do that. We want to negotiate privately behind closed doors so that way we can keep the cost of medicine higher. That's why insulin, which has been around for like 100 years, is still a name brand drug and still like $600 a month. Think of if a TV was like, the TV today is 1,000 times better than the TV of 100 years ago in 10% of the price. Like, why does that not happen with prescriptions? It's my own thought is that the pharmacy and the insurance industries are so strong and so influential that try as you might, because there is some of the stuff here, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, the federal government's already being sued because they put this price cap in, and it's a good talking point, but I don't, jury's still out as far as what it looks like. So.
All right.
If you switch to an Advantage plan for next year, did you say it's almost impossible to switch back the following year to Medicare,
Original Medicare with a supplement?
So it's based, and a lot, there's always exceptions to the rule. So the first time you get into Medicare, which for most people was at 65, you have this, ball totally in your court, you get a pick. If you started on the Medicare supplement side, and you've been there for 1 or 3 or 5 years, and you think, this is a year I want to try, kind of kick the tires on a Medicare Advantage plan, there's a rule called a trial right period. And so what that rule says, and it's very specific, so don't hold me to this without knowing your specific situation, but if you drop a Medicare supplement to try a Medicare Advantage plan, and that's your first time you've done that, within the first year only, at any time, you can have that buyer's remorse and bail out and go back to the Medicare supplement that you had without answering any health questions. But after that 1 year window, then it's fair game. Like, are you insurable? You know, if you're in decent health, yeah, we could probably get you a Medicare supplement. But usually if you're in decent health, like, your experience with the Advantage plan hasn't been that bad to kind of, you know, most people, if we do these reviews for clients and we say like, hey, you've been on the Advantage plan for 4 years, you want to switch? You would look backwards and say, well, no, I spent, you know, nothing at the doctor because I didn't go. I got my dental, I got my pickleball stuff, they also pay for ski and lift tickets, this plan, which I think is hilarious and awesome because I like to ski. But no, I got my ski tickets for free. You wait too late sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's you can switch back. And the underwriting on these supplements is not like life insurance or long-term care insurance where you have to give blood and a nurse comes out to see you. It's just a series of yes or no health questions with a pass-fail component to it.
So you would actually go back when it's time, like in October to December, you would switch back then if you wanted to go back to.
Correct. If you have been on a Medicare Advantage plan for 13 months or longer and you want to change, then that is the annual enrollment period, October 15th through December 7th of every year.
Yeah. Are you on an Advantage plan?
I am not on Medicare yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay.
So we have gone way, way over, guys. So I know there's just like so much to cover. Real quick, a couple things, because I'm gonna, for some of you who are wanting to go, I wanted to mention, you know, there is websites to go to. We've had Wilma from SHIP here. We've had her as a guest. She's been wonderful resource. You might want to check out multiple things, unfortunately. So the one thing I would say is what I've learned today is, yeah, it is confusing. This was very helpful to me. But you really need to dig in and kind of get the expert opinion. Okay, so
I
not
think the
calling
goal-
the 800 number
Yeah.
because that would have you know piqued my interest, of course, if that's free. So
I think the
Yeah.
goal is to get it right the first time.
yeah,
And if that means you can afford the supplement, you have some health issues, like that's the way I try to coach people through this. You know, my parents, my grandma, they're on Medicare, and it was mom and dad, let's try to get this right the first time, because if you have some health issues, you may be stuck there. Or if you're healthy at 65, you kind of, and you decide you want a Medicare Advantage plan, you kind of grow with the Advantage plan, right? I'm not on any medicine. Now I need medicine. Well, what pharmacy do you want me to use? Essence wants you to use CVS. United Healthcare wants you to use Walgreens. And so, okay, I'll go to Walgreens. And you kind of just get in your routine. And so as we're looking at reviewing this, in my mind, it's always, how do we take what you do, the doctors, the prescriptions, the dental, you know, if you love the gym membership or you had never used that, we take that and we go find the most appropriate plan given what the world looks like.
thank you. So
Has it ever been discontinued or grandfathered in?
Yeah, so if you're on Plan F on a supplement, you can keep that forever without it ever being dropped.
okay, so guys, goldenrod sheets. If you would turn those in up to the table. Carl's going to be sticking around for those of you who have questions that there wasn't time to get answered. So you're very passionate about this. You're obviously very well educated on it. So I really want to thank you for your time
Yeah, you bet.
today.
You bet.
It's been great.
That was helpful.
Okay. Thank you so much.